Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Culinary Chats. I'm Anna, your co-host, and today we have a deliciously exciting episode lined up for you.
Hey everyone, Ben here. We've got a lot to cover today. From sharing some of our favorite recipes to diving into some cooking tips and exploring various food cultures. So, let's get started.
Absolutely. Let's kick things off with something sweet. Ben, you recently made a fabulous dessert that you were raving about. Care to share?
Oh yes, I made a classic tiramisu, and let me tell you, it was heavenly. There's something about the combination of coffee, mascarpone, and cocoa that just hits the spot.
Tiramisu is such a timeless dessert. What was your approach to making it?
Well, I focused on balancing the flavors and textures. I used ladyfingers, soaked in a strong espresso, mixed with a bit of coffee liqueur. Then, I layered it with a creamy mixture of mascarpone cheese, egg yolks, and sugar, and topped it off with a dusting of cocoa powder.
That sounds divine! Did you face any challenges while making it?
The biggest challenge was getting the right consistency for the mascarpone mixture. It needs to be smooth but firm enough to hold the layers. Also, letting it chill for a few hours, or even better, overnight, makes a huge difference in allowing the flavors to meld together.
Patience is definitely key with tiramisu. I recently tried my hand at making a savory dish from Korean cuisine, bibimbap. Have you ever made it?
I have. Bibimbap is such a flavorful and colorful dish. How did you go about making it?
I started with a base of steamed rice and topped it with a variety of sautéed vegetables like spinach, carrots, zucchini, and mushrooms. I added some marinated beef and finished it off with a fried egg and a generous dollop of gochujang, the Korean chili paste.
That sounds delicious. The beauty of bibimbap is its versatility. You can mix and match ingredients based on what's available and your personal preferences.
Exactly. And the gochujang adds such a wonderful depth of flavor and heat. It's also a great way to use up leftover vegetables.
Speaking of versatility, I've been experimenting with different ways to cook chicken lately. Do you have a go-to chicken recipe that you love?
Yes, I do. One of my favorites is a classic roast chicken. It's simple, but so satisfying. I rub the chicken with a mix of olive oil, garlic, lemon, and herbs like rosemary and thyme, and then roast it until the skin is crispy and the meat is juicy.
That sounds perfect. Do you have any tips for getting the skin nice and crispy?
One trick is to make sure the skin is as dry as possible before roasting. Pat it down with paper towels and let it sit uncovered in the fridge for a few hours. Also, starting the roast at a high temperature for the first 20 minutes helps to crisp up the skin before lowering the temperature to finish cooking.
Great tips. Another chicken recipe I've been loving is chicken piccata. It's a quick and easy dish that's full of flavor.
Oh, I love chicken piccata. The combination of lemon, capers, and white wine is so refreshing. How do you make yours?
I start by dredging chicken cutlets in flour and then pan frying them until golden brown. I make a sauce with butter, garlic, lemon juice, white wine, and capers, and then simmer the chicken in the sauce until it's cooked through.
That sounds delicious and perfect for a weeknight dinner. It's amazing how such simple ingredients can create such a flavorful dish.
Absolutely. And it's ready in no time, which is always a plus. Moving on to something a bit more international, have you tried making any Middle Eastern dishes recently?
Yes, I recently made shakshuka. It's a North African and Middle Eastern dish of poached eggs in a spicy tomato and pepper sauce. It's perfect for brunch or even a light dinner.
Shakshuka is fantastic. The rich, spiced tomato sauce with runny eggs is such a comforting combination. What spices did you use in your version?
I used a blend of cumin, paprika, and a touch of cayenne for some heat. I also added some bell peppers and onions for extra flavor and texture.
That sounds amazing. I love how shakshuka can be customized with different vegetables and spices. It's a great way to use up what's in your fridge.
Exactly, and it's so easy to make. Just simmer the sauce, crack in the eggs, and let them poach to your desired doneness. Serve it with some crusty bread to soak up all the delicious sauce.
Perfect. Now let's talk about some cooking tips. One thing I've been focusing on lately is mastering the art of knife skills. It makes such a difference in the kitchen.
Absolutely, having good knife skills not only makes cooking more efficient, but also safer. What's one of your top knife tips?
One tip is to always keep your knives sharp. A sharp knife is safer because it requires less force to cut through food, reducing the risk of slipping. Also, practice the claw grip to keep your fingers safe while chopping.
Great advice. I also find that learning the basic knife cuts, like dicing, julienning, and chiffonating, can really improve your efficiency in the kitchen. It takes some practice, but it's worth it.
Definitely. And don't forget about the importance of a good cutting board. A sturdy, non-slip board can make a big difference in your chopping experience.
Absolutely. Another tip I have is to always taste your food as you go. It helps you adjust the seasoning and make sure the flavors are balanced.
That's a great tip. Cooking is all about building layers of flavor, and tasting as you go ensures that each layer is just right.
Exactly. Now let's dive into food culture. I recently read about the significance of food in different cultures, and it's fascinating how food brings people together and reflects their traditions and history.
That's so true. Food is such an integral part of cultural identity. For example, in Italy, food is all about family and tradition. Each region has its own specialties, and recipes are often passed down through generations.
Yes, and in many Asian cultures, food plays a central role in celebrations and family gatherings. It's a way to honor traditions and connect with loved ones.
Absolutely. And in Middle Eastern cultures, hospitality is key. Sharing food with guests is a sign of generosity and warmth.
It's amazing how food can convey so much more than just sustenance. It's a language of its own, telling stories of heritage, community, and love.
Well said, Anna. Food truly is a universal language that transcends borders and brings people together.
And on that note, let's wrap up today's episode with a fun segment. Rapid fire recipe ideas. I'll give you a main ingredient and you share a quick recipe idea. Ready?
Ready?
All right, the first ingredient is salmon.
Grilled salmon with a honey mustard glaze. Just mix honey, mustard, and a bit of soy sauce. Brush it on the salmon and grill until cooked through.
Yum! Next up, sweet potatoes.
Sweet potato fries. Cut them into wedges. Toss with olive oil, salt, and paprika, and bake until crispy.
Perfect. How about chickpeas?
Chickpea salad. Mix chickpeas with chopped tomatoes, cucumbers, red onion, feta cheese, and a lemon vinaigrette.
Delicious. Last one, spinach. We're thrilled to dive deeper into the world of food and cooking. Ben, let's pick up where we left off. We were discussing food culture, and I wanted to ask you about some of your personal food traditions. Do you have any family recipes that have been passed down through generations?
Absolutely, Anna. One family recipe that stands out is my grandmother's beef stew. It's a hearty dish that she used to make every Sunday, especially during the colder months. The recipe has been in our family for decades.
That sounds comforting. What's the secret to your grandmother's beef stew?
The key is in the slow cooking process and the blend of spices she used. She'd start by browning the beef to develop deep flavors. Then, she'd add onions, garlic, carrots, and potatoes. Her spice blend included bay leaves, thyme, and a hint of paprika. Everything would simmer for hours, allowing the flavors to meld together beautifully.
Slow cooking really does bring out the best in a stew. It's wonderful how food can connect us to our family history. I have a similar story with my grandmother's apple pie. It's a recipe that's been passed down and cherished in our family.
Apple pie is a classic. What makes your grandmother's version special?
It's all about the crust. She made a buttery, flaky crust that just melts in your mouth. For the filling, she used a mix of tart and sweet apples with a touch of cinnamon and nutmeg. It's simple, but incredibly delicious.
That sounds amazing. Speaking of desserts, have you ever experimented with making international sweets?
I have. One of my favorite international desserts to make is baklava. It's a rich, sweet pastry made of layers of phyllo dough filled with chopped nuts and sweetened with syrup or honey.
Baklava is fantastic. It's a bit of a process to make, but so worth it. Do you have any tips for working with phyllo dough?
Yes, phyllo dough can be tricky because it's so delicate. The key is to keep it covered with a damp cloth while you're working so it doesn't dry out. Also, Brushing each layer with melted butter ensures that the baklava is wonderfully crisp and flavorful.
Great tips. I've made baklava a few times, and it's always a hit. Another dessert I've enjoyed making is French macarons. They're a bit finicky, but so rewarding when they turn out right.
Macarons are definitely a labor of love. Getting that perfect foot on the macaron can be challenging. Do you have any advice for those attempting macarons for the first time?
Patience and precision are crucial. Make sure to sift your almond flour and powdered sugar thoroughly to avoid lumps. Also, letting the piped macarons sit for about 30 minutes before baking helps form a skin, which is essential for achieving that signature foot.
Excellent advice. Let's switch gears and talk about some of the latest food trends. Have you noticed any interesting trends in the culinary world lately?
One trend I've noticed is the rise of plant-based cooking. More people are exploring vegetarian and vegan recipes, not just for health reasons, but also for sustainability. It's amazing to see the creativity that chefs and home cooks are bringing to plant-based dishes.
Absolutely. Plant-based cooking has come a long way, and the options are so diverse now. One of my favorite plant-based ingredients to work with is jackfruit. It's incredibly versatile and can mimic the texture of meat in dishes like tacos and pulled pork.
Jackfruit is fantastic. Another ingredient gaining popularity is cauliflower. It's being used in everything from pizza crusts to rice substitutes. It's such a versatile vegetable.
Definitely. I've made cauliflower rice and even cauliflower steaks, which are delicious when roasted with a good spice rub. It's great to see vegetables taking center stage.
Speaking of vegetables, another trend is the focus on heirloom varieties and locally sourced produce. There's a growing appreciation for unique, flavorful produce that you can't find in typical grocery stores.
Yes, heirloom tomatoes come to mind. They have such incredible flavor compared to the standard varieties. It's wonderful to support local farmers and enjoy produce at its peak.
Totally agree. Now, let's talk about some kitchen gadgets. Have you invested in any new tools or appliances that have made a difference in your cooking?
I recently got an immersion blender, and it's been a game changer for making soups and sauces. It's so much easier than transferring hot liquids to a traditional blender.
Immersion blenders are fantastic. I've been using a sous vide machine lately, and it's opened up a whole new world of precision cooking. The ability to cook meats to the exact level of doneness is incredible.
Sous vide is amazing for that. It's also great for infusing flavors into proteins. Have you tried any unique recipes with it?
Yes, I made sous vide duck breast with a cherry sauce. The duck was perfectly cooked, tender and juicy, and the cherry sauce added a lovely sweet tart balance.
That sounds exquisite. Another gadget I love is my cast iron skillet. It's so versatile and adds incredible flavor to dishes, whether I'm searing a steak or baking cornbread.
Cast iron skillets are a kitchen essential. They're perfect for getting a nice sear on meats and can go straight from the stovetop to the oven. Plus, they last forever if you take care of them.
Absolutely. Speaking of lasting forever, let's touch on the importance of sustainability in the kitchen. Reducing waste and making environmentally conscious choices are so important.
Definitely. One thing I've been doing is composting kitchen scraps. It's a great way to reduce waste and create nutrient-rich compost for the garden.
That's a fantastic practice. I've also been more mindful of using the whole vegetable. For example, I save carrot tops and celery leaves to make homemade vegetable broth. It's a great way to use up odds and ends.
That's a great tip. Another thing I've been doing is meal planning to minimize food waste. Planning meals ahead of time ensures I only buy what I need and use up ingredients efficiently.
Meal planning is a huge help. It also saves time and reduces the stress of deciding what to cook each day. Plus, it's a great way to try new recipes and keep things interesting.
Absolutely. And speaking of trying new things, I've been exploring different cuisines more. It's fascinating to see the unique ingredients and techniques each cuisine offers.
That's one of my favorite things to do, too. Recently, I've been exploring Indian cuisine. The complexity of the spices and the variety of dishes is incredible. Making dishes like butter chicken and chana masala at home has been so rewarding.
Indian cuisine is amazing. The use of spices like cumin, coriander, and garam masala creates such deep and complex flavors. I've been experimenting with making my own spice blends at home.
Homemade spice blends are a great way to elevate your cooking. Plus, they're customizable, so you can adjust the flavors to your liking. Do you have a favorite spice blend you've made?
Yes, I made a homemade ras el hanout, which is a Moroccan spice blend. It's a mix of warm spices like cinnamon, cumin, coriander, and turmeric. It's fantastic in tagines and other North African dishes.
That sounds wonderful. I love how each spice blend tells a story of its region. It's like taking a culinary journey with each dish.
Exactly. Food has the power to transport us to different places and cultures. It's one of the things I love most about cooking.
Me too. Well, we've covered a lot today, from recipes and cooking tips to food culture and sustainability. It's been such a fun and enlightening conversation.
Absolutely. I hope our listeners have enjoyed it as much as we have. Remember, cooking is an adventure, and there's always something new to learn and explore.
We're thrilled to continue our deep dive into the world of food and cooking. Ben, let's explore more about food culture and how it influences our cooking practices. Have you ever traveled somewhere and been inspired by the local cuisine?
Absolutely, Anna. Travel has been a huge inspiration for my cooking. One memorable trip was to Thailand. The vibrant flavors and fresh ingredients in Thai cuisine were incredible. I brought back a lot of ideas and recipes from that trip.
Thai cuisine is known for its balance of sweet, salty, sour, and spicy flavors. Did you have a favorite dish from your travels?
Yes, pad thai was a standout for me. It's a perfect example of that flavor balance. I also love the green curry with its rich coconut milk base and aromatic spices. Have you traveled somewhere that inspired your cooking?
Yes, I had a wonderful experience in Italy. The simplicity and freshness of Italian cuisine really resonated with me. Dishes like pasta alla carbonara and margherita pizza, made with just a few high-quality ingredients, were incredibly inspiring.
Italian food has a way of highlighting the natural flavors of the ingredients. What did you bring back from your culinary adventures in Italy?
I learned the importance of using fresh, seasonal ingredients and the art of making pasta from scratch. The process of kneading the dough and rolling it out by hand is therapeutic and results in a much more satisfying dish.
Making pasta from scratch is a wonderful skill to have. It does take practice, but the results are well worth it. Speaking of skills, let's talk about some techniques that home cooks might want to master to elevate their cooking.
One technique that can make a big difference is learning how to properly sear meat. Achieving a good sear locks in the juices and creates a flavorful crust. Do you have any tips for getting a perfect sear?
Definitely. The key is to use a heavy pan, like cast iron, and get it really hot before adding the meat. Also, make sure the meat is dry and season it generously with salt and pepper. Don't overcrowd the pan, as that will lower the temperature and cause the meat to steam rather than sear.
Great tips. Another important technique is learning how to make a good sauce. A well-made sauce can transform a dish. What are some of your favorite sauces to make at home?
I love making a classic beurre blanc, which is a butter sauce that's perfect for fish. It's made with shallots, white wine, and butter. Another favorite is chimichurri, an Argentinian sauce made with fresh herbs, garlic, vinegar, and olive oil. It's fantastic on grilled meats.
Chimichurri is so fresh and flavorful. I also enjoy making a simple tomato sauce from scratch. Using ripe tomatoes, garlic, and fresh basil creates a sauce that's far superior to anything store-bought.
Absolutely. Homemade tomato sauce is a game changer. Let's talk a bit more about food culture. Have you noticed any interesting food traditions in different cultures that you've incorporated into your own cooking?
One tradition that I've embraced is the Japanese concept of umami. It's considered the fifth taste and adds a depth of flavor to dishes. Ingredients like soy sauce, miso, and mushrooms are great sources of umami.
Umami is fascinating. It really enhances the overall flavor profile of a dish. I've also been inspired by the Spanish tradition of tapas, or small plates. It's a wonderful way to enjoy a variety of flavors and share food with friends and family.
Tapas are great for entertaining. It's so much fun to prepare a spread of different dishes and have everyone try a bit of everything. Do you have any favorite tapas recipes?
Yes, I love making patatas bravas, which are crispy potatoes with a spicy tomato sauce and aioli. Another favorite is gambas al ajillo, or garlic shrimp. Both are simple but packed with flavor.
Those sound delicious. Speaking of entertaining, let's talk about hosting dinner parties. What are some tips for planning and preparing a successful dinner party?
One key tip is to plan a menu that includes dishes you can prepare in advance. This allows you to spend more time with your guests and less time in the kitchen. Also, having a mix of flavors and textures keeps the meal interesting.
Great advice. I also like to include a mix of dishes that cater to different dietary preferences. Having a few vegetarian or gluten-free options ensures that everyone can enjoy the meal. Do you have any go-to dishes for entertaining?
I often make a large charcuterie board as an appetizer. It's easy to assemble and always a hit. For the main course, I like to make something like a roast or a casserole that can be made ahead and just needs to be reheated.
Charcuterie boards are always a crowd pleaser. For dessert, I like to serve something that can be made in advance, like a tiramisu or a fruit tart. It's nice to have everything ready so you can relax and enjoy the evening with your guests.
Absolutely. Hosting should be enjoyable, not stressful. Now, let's switch gears a bit and talk about some regional cuisines that we haven't covered yet. What's a regional cuisine that you find particularly intriguing?
I've always been intrigued by Ethiopian cuisine. The use of spices and the communal way of eating, with injera bread serving as both a utensil and a part of the meal, is fascinating.
Ethiopian food is wonderful. The flavors are so unique, and the communal aspect really brings people together. Have you tried making any Ethiopian dishes at home?
Yes, I've made doro wat, which is a spicy chicken stew, and misir wat, a lentil dish. Both are flavored with berber, a spice blend that includes chili peppers, garlic, ginger, and a variety of other spices. It's a bit time-consuming, but the flavors are well worth it.
Those dishes are fantastic. Another regional cuisine I find intriguing is Cajun and Creole from Louisiana. The bold flavors and mix of French, Spanish, African, and Native American influences create some truly unique dishes.
Cajun and Creole cuisine is incredible. I love making gumbo and jambalaya. The depth of flavor achieved through the use of a dark roux and the holy trinity of onions, bell peppers, and celery is amazing.
Absolutely. Andouille sausage and seafood are also key components that add so much flavor. It's a cuisine that's rich in history and tradition.
Definitely. Speaking of history and tradition, let's talk about food preservation techniques. Have you tried any methods like pickling, fermenting, or canning?
Yes, I've been getting into fermenting recently. I made a batch of kimchi, which is a Korean fermented cabbage. It's tangy, spicy, and incredibly flavorful. Have you done any food preservation?
I have. I love making pickles. It's a simple process, and you can pickle a variety of vegetables. I also enjoy making jams and preserves when fruits are in season. It's a great way to capture the flavors of summer.
Pickling and canning are fantastic ways to extend the life of your produce. Fermenting is also great for adding probiotics to your diet. It's amazing how these traditional techniques are making a comeback.
Absolutely. There's a renewed interest in self-sufficiency and reducing food waste, which is wonderful to see. It's all about making the most of what we have and enjoying the process.
Exactly. Cooking is as much about the journey as it is about the destination. Exploring new techniques, flavors, and cultures keeps it exciting and fulfilling.
Well said, Ben. I think that's a perfect note to end on for today. We've covered so much ground, from recipes and cooking tips to food culture and preservation techniques. It's been a wonderful discussion.
It really has. Thank you all for joining us on this extended culinary journey. Keep experimenting in the kitchen and exploring the diverse world of food. Until next time, happy cooking.